Okay, I'm going to get started. We're a couple minutes after the hour here, but it is time to get going. I'm sure I'll be letting people in as we go. Good morning, everybody. I'm Paul Dean. Welcome to the Materials Exchange Smart Market call. This call is going to go a little bit longer here this morning because we've got a full agenda, but let's get started here. Again, here we've got some more people coming on board. For those of you that are new, the Smart Market meeting is a weekly meeting that we run every Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Usually we try and keep it to about 20 to 30 minutes. But as I said, this particular meeting, we've got a guest speaker. It's going to be wonderful. So hang on to your hats here. We typically talk about MX System resources, tips, and tricks. We'll do some new customer profiles. We'll do some market updates, mills and supply. And like I say, this morning, we've got a wonderful speaker, guest speaker, Thomas Mende, who is the president and CEO of Binderholz Timber. You're going to see some really astonishing screenshots this morning of some of their mills across Europe that are absolutely spotless and gorgeous. This one happens to be in Kesching, Germany. Here's another one in Fugen, Austria. I mean, these things are just absolutely stunning in terms of how beautiful they are. Here's another one in Bergenheim, Germany. And Thomas this morning is going to talk a little bit about world markets from his perspective. He'll talk about their foray into southern yellow pine. And he'll talk a little bit as he'll have a dialogue with our own Mike Wisniewski about his Materials Exchange digital presence and his support of the platform. So that will be later on. Just want to talk a little bit about the user base of the Materials Exchange platform. As you know, we appeal to everybody in the industry that buys or sells wood, LBM dealers, component folks, distributors, construction suppliers, industrial manufacturers, and just a reminder that everybody can be both a buyer and a seller on the platform. Right now, currently, this is kind of our mix of users on the system. You'll see we've got about 18% of our users are manufacturers and mills. We've got 40% of our dealers are LBM retail dealers. We've got another 23%, almost 30 of them of component manufacturers that are on the system right now, and 23 wholesale distributors. And then we started to build our industrial customer base as well. So these are our product categories, and our users and suppliers are expanding nicely. Just this week alone, we added Burgess Manufacturing out of Oklahoma. We added BP Wood, Ogden and Adams out of Iowa, Hawk Distribution, Beatty Lumber, Hayward Lumber in California. This happens to be just a screenshot from their webpage. Burgess Manufacturing is kind of a nice company in Oklahoma. Their mission is to become the largest industrial manufacturer in Oklahoma. As you can see here, just by their gallery of products, they offer everything from industrial boxes and crating, lumber and timbers, plywood, chipboard. They do a lot of pallet manufacturing and pallet design and industrial crating. So we'll feature them as a user on the system here in the future. But this week on the platform, there was a lot going on that we want to bring you up to speed on. For example, we all saw, the prices of lumber were extraordinary. This week, we actually saw $1,800 OSB on the market. It was stunning to see. And we also are starting to expand our product categories. We've started, as you all know, with dimension lumber and commodity panels and high volume, full truck, full rail card quantities. We also started to add some other products this week. We've got Western Larch 5-quarter decking, AKKD radius edge decking, architectural not kiln dried. That stands for, that was a new term for me. I didn't know what AKK meant. 5-quarter. Chris Bouchard, are you on the line? Can I ask you to say a couple? I'll unmute you real quick. Hang on just a second here.
I'm one step ahead of you there, Paul.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. So BP Wood is a new addition to the Materials Exchange team. Super excited to be part of this interface. I see a lot of value in this moving forward and in the industry. A 5-quarter by 6 radius edge decking, something It's been talked about a lot in the last little while. Not a lot of it going around. Spring markets are popping. Western larch as a species will rank third in rot resistance next to red and yellow cedar for Western softwood species, and has traditionally just been mixed in with Doug fir for its strength properties, but very underutilized in North American markets for its appearance and weathering characteristics. Larch has been used heavily in European markets, siding and decking and railing, for those purposes, for its rot resistance and performance and weathering outside. And so we saw an opportunity this year to tap into the decking market. So excited to have this up on the Material Exchange, and I'm a very easy guy to find if anybody needs any more specific information. It'll be interesting to see how a more of an appearance style, less of a commodity type product will do on Materials Exchange. So we're happy to work with anybody to teach them more about the product and help them have success with it.
We appreciate that, Chris, very much. We welcome
Hey,
you
Paul,
aboard.
if I can just give a dirty little secret about backyard play sets that look like they're Western red cedar, I would say probably 95% of the backyard play sets that are cedar are actually larch that comes out of Russia, gets manufactured in China and sent over here. So when you see a Western red cedar play set, you're probably looking at some larch.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Okay, just a reminder. So every day we're sending out something called our live market report. And what this is meant to show you everything that's being listed currently on the exchange. And so you'll see items in red that are essentially new items that are being added, like that Western red larch that you just saw. Items in bold show items, things that are prompt, that are available prompt. And you'll typically see it coming from a location, Indianapolis in Indiana, or Enfield, Connecticut, or any of our kind of predefined locations. But the point of this is this pricing is obviously to that region. But the strength of the platform is for you to turn around in your chairs and look at your specific screen and see what your landed cost is to you. We go every single night. We're updating our freight rates in the platform. And so when you're looking at your screen, you're seeing landed cost to you. And so with that, I also want to remind everybody that buying and selling is a two-way street. A lot of our buyers look each day on the platform to see what's being offered. And that's an important thing. Sometimes you guys will log on real early and maybe not see a lot there. Well, our suppliers do the same. They have to wake up, they get their coffee, they get their price and their sell sheets finalized for the day. They turn around and they add things to the exchange throughout the morning. So it's really important for you to, keep looking throughout the morning at what's being listed on the exchange. And then we send out that FOB sheet, that live market sheet, to remind you of what's actually on there. And we actually had a situation this week where someone said, I'm looking for some MSR. And I turned around and told Ashley. Ashley actually called a couple suppliers of MSR, and we had MSR up on the exchange right away. And so I wanted to show you just a live demo here of a couple of things. This happens to be a supplier, right? And this supplier is offering 10 trucks of 2x4 16s in Euro Premium at 1,100. They're also offering 5 trucks of 2x4 12s at 1,100. Now on the buy side, you'll see that you can see those offers. Here's the 10 trucks at a freight adjusted rate of 1114, and there's those other 5 trucks of the 2x4 12s at an adjusted rate of 979. So you're actually seeing your landed cost. And don't forget that I can make a bid on those 2x4 12s. Just as an example, I can hold my hand up and say I'd like to bid 970 on that and put my hand up. So now we're actually $9 apart. So that's my side of making a bid in the marketplace. Now, also, I might want to put my hand up and say, I'm looking for some items. I'm looking for some 1650 MSR, which is exactly what the case was this week. So I might say, I'd like to put a bid out on some MSR, maybe some 2x4s and some 14 footers and 12 footers. So you put your hand up, and you can see there's no corresponding offers on that right now, but you've got your hand up in the air, and you're basically saying, I'm looking at that. And let's not forget the $9 spread on these 2x4 12s. On the seller's side, let's look at their screen. So on the seller's side, you'll see that same $9 spread, freight adjusted, on those 2x4 12s. So there they are. Someone has their hand up, and they're saying, I will pay you $9 under what you're asking for the 2x4 12s. Now let's also look, if you sort these, remember that all of these columns can be sorted by anything you've got. If I just want to look at my 2 and better, if I want to look at my 1650, if I just want to look at the bids and the asks out there, someone has their hand up and says, I want to buy some 1650 MSRs, some 2x4s and 2x12s, or 12s and 14s. So it's important to realize that not only are you there to browse what's on the marketplace and seeing what the suppliers are offering, but as buyers, you want to be able to raise your hand and see what's, or to ask the market what it is you're looking for. And remember, when you put out a bid on there, you're putting out your freight adjusted. The supplier will see minus freight. So that's just a little bit of a quick tip this morning about working both sides of the marketplace and seeding both sides of the marketplace. With that, I want to continue on. And Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about the market.
Thanks, Paul. Well, you had the little view from Home Alone from the guy screaming about the prices. So I had a good call last night with Jim Schumacher, and if you don't know Jim, he does Shoes Lumber Report on LinkedIn and some other things. You can find him there. Little ding ding for him. You can you should go look at it. I think last week I said we were in probably the 7th inning of a game. I'd probably equate this to the 8th inning. When I go and look at all the social media out there, nobody thinks the price is ever going down, and that's what the feeling is. Good business, good movement back and forth. I will tell you, we are making some unique connections on here. We are moving things from retailers to distributors, from distributors to distributors, lumber that's moving 1,800 miles into areas that usually gets distributed within 100 miles. So what that tells me is there's a lot of, there's a big disconnect in where the actual material is sitting versus where some of it's being used right now. Good reason to use the platform. Paul put up 1,800 OSB. I would say that was somebody listing something that they put it at a price they'd move it at. I think we moved about 12 trucks of OSB over the last few weeks. Below that number, that's a number that somebody's putting up there, but if you put a bid on it, they may be able to move that around a little bit. So I would say the market will probably remain volatile, you know, a little stronger than normal going forward here for a while. But again, I can't prognosticate where it's going, but I'm seeing some signs where we're probably closer to the high end of a range right now and trying to figure out if it wants to either roll over or at least start establishing a range a little bit higher. So with all that confusing word salad, Paul, I'll turn it back over to you.
One more thing on the OSB side, we also heard, you know, there's a lot of jungle drumming about allocations. And then we also heard some stuff about some of the OSB mills not having resin. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, so, you know, that the glue obviously is I'm going to probably speak in a little bit uneducated, so forth about this. I talked to one of my buddies that used to run a few mills the other night. That glue obviously is a refined type of product, right? That it comes, it's got to have water added to it to become a real strong resin. There's been some problems with producing this resin. So some of the mills and some of the I-joist plants are having problems with it and are pushing back on some of their allocations and so forth. Again, I don't buy OSB or engineered product on a regular basis, so this is just what I hear. Is that bullish or bearish on the market? Well, if everybody has a bunch of inventory and every other job is getting backed up because of cabinets, windows, doors, millwork, everything else, it could go either way on that, right? because if somebody doesn't have something right now and a mill pushes back and says, we don't have this to sell, who knows what that means. But yes, we have been hearing about that. It started out a month ago with one of the larger OSB mills mentioning it, and it's kind of revolved to all the other smaller mills and in other places. Again, I don't know what it means, but yes, we've heard that.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thanks, Ash. Appreciate that. At this point, I would like to ask Mike Wisniewski to jump on board here. Before I do, Thomas, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. Do you have your slides ready, or I can also show them from my side? Tell me how you'd like to do that.
I have them ready, Dean. Paul.
Okay. Yep, very good. Let me stop my screen share here.
Yep.
There we go. Very good. Good morning.
Well, I'm going to take the opportunity to introduce Thomas. Thomas is a good friend. I always enjoy talking with him. Here's a little unknown fact about Thomas: is he is a massive world traveler. There's probably not a country that any one of us have been to that he hasn't. I watch him on Facebook and see where he's almost like, where's Waldo? All of a sudden Thomas pops up on some other part of the world. But what I love about that fact of Thomas is he is so well spoken across many different topics, and his experience is, unprecedented. So I think when he brings that to he brings to the lumber market this open-minded and really inquisitive view of how things are going. He has no preconceived notion of the way things should be, which has led to a lot of his success in life, I'm sure. So with no more ado, I'll let Thomas take over, and thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Mike. I used to be a world traveler. Obviously, I haven't done a whole lot of traveling the last year. So it's quite surprising how fast somebody can adjust their lifestyle. Do you see my screen? Because I don't.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So how, there's a trick here somewhere.
The share screen in the bottom middle, probably green button.
I did that, and I see it on the screen, but I don't know why you do not.
Maybe we have that blocked, Paul, for some.
No, I don't.
Yeah. So I have a big 1 on my screen.
Oh, you have to choose a screen, Thomas.
Oh, you've got multiple monitors open.
And then you have to hit share a second time.
Okay.
So you hit share, pick your monitor, and then hit share.
Okay, of course, now I'm not sure where I'm at, so give me just a second. Share
It's easy to
screen.
get lost with multiple.
Select the window. I select screen 1.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
How that?
There we go. Beautiful.
Good. Okay, well, lucky. I just have to figure out how to move it. Okay, very good. But I don't know how. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I appreciate everybody's interest in Binderholz. I'm relatively new to the company, only about a year and a half. Did not know a whole lot about Binderholz when I started. When I started, I was interested in mostly the CLT production because I saw it as a big future in the lumber industry. But to give you a quick overview, and I'll flip very quickly. Company has about 3,000 employees, 14 locations now in Austria, Germany, Finland, and recently, as you know, the US. Was started in 1957 by Mr. Binder, who is in the left slide there. And really in 2015, they started, in 16, they started purchasing other companies to grow the business. In cross-laminated timber, the company has been in that business since 2006. So about clear 15 years experience in that. 2016 was the purchase of the Liexa mills, and then there was also Klenkbad, which was one of the biggest German manufacturers. And of course, just recently, the expansion in Florida. So the company is growing, is very actively. It's a 3rd generation now family company. We have 3 generations working there. The guy on the left is Reinhard Binder in the green picture. That is our CEO, and he's one of 3 brothers that have successfully managed to pass the company on into multiple generations. So what products are we into? basic products that have to do with solid wood. But I'll go more details in that. We're in construction solutions, so we're actually the largest CLT producer in the world. And we're also focusing very much on biofuels and anything else that we can do with the byproducts. Wood cut doesn't tell you a whole lot, and these are all cubic meter numbers, but let's say 42 cubic meters on a truckload of spruce. So you can see we're making quite a lot of lumber. And we're probably ranking now on number 6 or 7 in the world in terms of production, and number 2 just right behind Stora Enso on the European side. Again, the principle of the company is really to do everything with wood and to be fully integrated. In Europe, we also are in the forestry side, and then we do value added. Here's our location list. Very heavy, of course, in the Central European side with multiple facilities in Central Europe, 2 facilities and 3 facilities in Finland, 2 sawmills now in the US, in North Carolina and in Florida, the former Klausner mills, and then our office in Atlanta. Quick flip through. Each of these mills has their own peculiarities and products that they make, but one that I like a lot is in the headquarters. You have a restaurant and a bar directly built into the sawmill with a beautiful view of the mountains and the timber world. So there's actually we call it guest experience about wood and education and what wood does around the world. This is our glulam factory. This is one of the largest glulam factories in the world. I think we roughly 200 million board feet of glulam. There's actually 3 plants, 3 lines in there, from the manual line for special products to a fully automated, just incredible production facility. This is our wood panel factory. I'll show you the product later. Office. This is actually a CLT office with solar panels on top. Where we produce, where we sell our CLT production. This is one of the CLT mills, the other CLT mill, and then our sawmills here in Germany. This is the Cushing plant near Audi. Oberroth, this is the former Klenk mill. Bayreuth near Berlin. Wolfegg in the Black Forest, and then our Finnish mills. And then of course Live Oak and Enfield, and our office, actually, this is where I'm sitting at right now, and the sky is also blue. So what do we do in the US? You know, we are importing, of course, right now currently the European lumber, in red, our distribution points or port points, and then also right here, the location really of the Live Oak mill and the Enfield mill. Made it very easy for us, the decision to purchase these, since the majority of our customers are really in these markets already. So we figured that's a quick, easy purchase and acquisition. Flip through this. There's a beautiful video. So we're in lumber. But we're also in the value-added side of things. We make profile boards. We make decking products. These are our CLT productions. So again, we're the largest CLT producer in the world. Full line of glulams, and this is actually a finger joint long length products that we're bringing in also into the US. In solid wood panels, this is an interior product really to a large format panel to make a quick interior wooden product. We're the largest DIY supplier in Europe with edge glue panels and multiple other DIY products. And then we make fun things like press board pallets out of sawdust and blocks, and of course these biofuels. Just quickly, this is what we're bringing into the US. This is actually out of our Tampa facility, Tampa picture right here. But in spruce, we're starting at the small stuff, 2x3, 2x8, 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, 2x10s, 2x12. So really what we're doing is to provide a full line of products, both studs and dimension lumber. And we also bring in boards. I'm handling only the boards for the home center business that we're supplying. Rick Weiss with Weiss Forest Products sells our regular number 2 European product. And then in Southern Yellow Pine, this is just what we'll be making down there in Florida. And some of, I know at least Tom is on the phone call that is a customer or was a customer of this Klausner mill. Just a traditional product mix, a little bit decking, 2x4 through 2x12, and our grades that we'll be making there. And then we also do European sizes. So this is interesting for somebody that's in the industrial side or in the pellet side of things. These are unique opportunities to save some fiber, save some reman cost. And, you know, we've had very good success in the past with that from the Klausner mills. So just I indulge you here in a few more pictures of our CLT business. This is really what attracted me to the business. I think this is a big future in our industry and is moving the business forward. But it also has an interesting impact. This is actually the University of Arkansas that we built their dorms, really beautiful facilities. So from private houses, office buildings, apartments. We do about 5,000 projects a year, and that's like for the last 10 years or so. So in terms of experience, we are the largest and probably the most experienced company in this business. So, and for all people that say, oh, this doesn't work in moist climates, you know, this is a water park, but we built in, I think, 46 different countries, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, in all kinds of climates where, and this is a beautiful building, by the way, this is a curved building here in France, where mass timber's been really breaking off. So again, this is my newfound love, but I'm kind of confined to selling lumber these days. So as you know, and I'm going to stop sharing now and get you back to Mike. Quick overview of the company. We continue to grow. The company wants to get bigger, wants to get stronger, and in the business, and it's very, very orientated on providing the whole set of production products in the construction business.
Hey, Thomas, it's Ashley. You have a question from the audience. It said, it's from Kyle Sherwood. He wanted to know, what's the import volume looking like for 2021, projected volume in 22, and the timeline of the North Carolina and Florida Southern Pine production to come on?
Oh, well, he's anticipating all the questions here that I was supposed to answer. So, you know, it's a very interesting story. You know, of course, I got an email this morning from Mr. Binder and said, raise your prices everywhere, you know. So I think the challenge on the European supply side is, of course, people that have been in the business or will be in the business already in the business. You know, there's not a whole lot additional players that should be coming along, because if you're not in the European import business now, or if you're not selling to the US now, you kind of missed the boat so far. So, but the real challenge is that the prices in Europe are going up just as fast. So if you look at it as a global marketplace, which this really is, you know, there's big shifts going on, and they're related to, of course, material coming here, material being used in Europe, and I mentioned the CLT side earlier. You know, the CLT now takes 1 million cubic meters of, it has 1 million cubic meters of production in Europe, and that means it's probably has about 1.2 million consumption of lumber, and it's expected by the end of next year to be at 2.2 million. So there's fiber coming out of the market that is no longer going into dimension lumber. Then Eastern Europe, you know, has really picked up the game to China now. As you probably heard, there's a round log ban now from Russia to China. That means lumber production is heading towards China from Eastern European countries. And there's I would call this a massive shuffle game. You know, in the end, it's if the market goes up here, soon it has to come from somewhere, and that means markets are going up elsewhere. You know, I talked yesterday with some guys in South America. You know, they're calling me now. Hey, you know, we need to buy some yellow pine again, and maybe we should buy from Europe. I said, why? Was Chileans raising the prices? Oh yeah, they're raising the prices. You know, so everybody in the world is raising prices now. And so, the tide is rising everywhere because inventories are as low as, they've ever been. And I think this is not going to change very quickly because the only reason it could change, we have a dramatic collapse in consumption or we have a dramatic increase in production, neither one which is, necessarily a big possibility at this point. So globally, we're seeing the rising tide. And, I have to fight every day for lumber with the other European guys. The big difference in Europe is they have options. They can make other sizes that are just as profitable or more profitable than the US market. And we have to justify why should they make lumber for the US every day. Right now it's fairly easy, but there will be times when this will be more difficult. And the European mill can switch on and off very, very quickly, unlike a US and Canadian mill. Yeah.
Thomas, where do you see supply coming on or new capacity coming on globally?
It's, the new capacity is all coming in the south. So there's a little bit in Eastern Europe, but the Eastern Europe capacity that's being built, if they build 1 million cubic meters in 2 years, that's the amount of capacity that's being absorbed by the CLT business. So the only real capacity increase is coming here in the US South. So it's Southern Yellow Pine.
And do you see the Chinese market ramping up well, this is 2 questions. No,
Yeah.
What do you see with that Chinese market happening? And do you have any sources of information that you look to that are publicly available for indicators on the global scale?
Yeah, so I'm following just like a lot of people. I'm following what other people are publishing, like FEA or what markets report and so on. So I'm not an expert on volume and calculations, but the Chinese bought last year, I think, like 13.5 million cubic meters of logs from Europe. This year they'll probably only get about 3.5. Yeah, so they will have to, the Chinese government cut the Australian timber off because they wanted to punish Australia on the COVID investigations. So they can't really get that much from there. So they're having to shift around. Apparently they're buying more in Brazil now, and they're buying more in Chile. Well, that's taken fiber away from plywood mills in Brazil. I've heard the comment this week that the plywood mills in Brazil are having supply issues because they can't buy logs. They're all going to China. I mean, it is a crazy game out there today. And that's, maybe that's the, that is really the gist of it all. It's completely impossible to forecast what's happening here because there's so many moving parts at this point. Like you mentioned, the resin shortage, it's something that I've heard also this week, and there's global shortages in all kinds of products, including, of course, and this is the interesting part because just another discussion just a second ago with somebody, all other building materials are going up. So steel and concrete have gone up more than 50%, and they're also rising as fast as lumber is. So I think we're seeing an overall inflationary environment that's probably not, you see it a little bit now talked about in the stock market on the yield curves and so on. So that's the one thing that is really on my mind when it comes to how long is this going to last? I mean, is this going to be where we end up with really high interest rates, and that's going to put the knife in the body? But other than that, I see really no real reason for the market situation to change at this point.
So we have Kyle was asking, do you estimate that the increase in the U.S. South, what do you estimate the increase in the U.S. South by the end of 2021? Do you know how many greenfield mills are coming on?
Yeah, I have a nice slide in the presentation somebody sent me the other day, but I think there's a billion board feet again in production capacity and in increase, I think just this year, and then probably another billion next year. So that's volume, of course, that's coming on. But when you look at the overall balance between what Western Canada has lost and is still losing on capacity, I think Don Kane a few weeks ago, or a few months ago in an interview mentioned there's another 2 billion feet having to come out of Western Canada eventually in the next 5 years. So one market is declining, another one is is increasing. Volume is going or moving into value-added products, and then you have all these other players in the world that are pulling their strings. Whether that's India, Pakistan, or China. The three big players.
All right, one last market question. We probably all saw the famous article in the Wall Street Journal last week talking about how low the log prices are in the South and how much money the sawmills are making. You just said the Chinese are going to import like 10 million cubic meters less logs from Eastern Europe. Do you think that these southern yellow pine logs might start heading in more, in a greater volume to China?
Like they already are. I mean, I think there's I know one guy in Wilmington, North Carolina. He does 150 truckloads a day almost. So I mean, he's very, very busy exporting. They're already doing that. I mean, I think the article is, I couldn't actually read it because I can't afford a Wall Street Journal subscription, but I did see the headline, and I think I understand what they're talking about. The growth of the fiber in the South is still improving, and they're making so much advancements also on the genetic side that, they keep growing more. They have more and more investors. And the sawmills that are being built, I think, they're right now clustering in Mississippi, and that's definitely an area that's being probably overbuilt. So there will be a price increase regionally, but overall, yeah, I would say in about 2 or 3 years, these guys will see some good price increases. And that's the way it should be. I mean, a tree should be worth a lot. It is a tremendous source of carbon storage. And it should have a proper price, and so should lumber.
All right, another question. How will the U.S. West Coast logging of burned areas affect the market? Do you see that?
I know too little about the West Coast to actually have an opinion about that, but I mean, I think burnt forests have their own challenges, and burnt fiber and burnt chips are very difficult to get rid of. So I think this is always, the government's fantasy is always, we don't do the harvesting, then it burns, and then let's figure out what to do with it. It would have been so much better to have proper harvests on the West Coast. So I actually anticipate that within the next 10 years, we'll see more and more harvest from national forests. The last administration, not the Trump administration, but actually the Obama administration wanted to increase it. The Trump administration wants to increase. Everybody says we want to increase. Both sides, both parties wants to do that, but nobody is finding a way to the bureaucracy and the legal challenges to make it happen. So.
All right, let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's talk about your southern yellow pine mills. When will your 2 southern yellow pine mills come online?
So Live Oak is coming online at the end of this month. So the first production week should be the last week of March. That's still on schedule at this point. We will start selling when we see packs coming off the line, and we can see something happening. The mill in North Carolina will probably take until the end of the year to repair some of the site damages that have been done by not running it and by not properly securing the ground, and some other additional investment that Binderholz is making.
All right, so I think there's an interesting phenomena that nobody realized. The mill in Florida was only bid on by 2 people, and they were both German entities. The reason that only 2 people were going to buy them is because Americans don't know how to run this sawmill, because it is a German-made sawmill. And I think the biggest difference is this right here. Everyone can see my screen, I assume. Yep. This is the log sorting area. So I'm going to show you, this is the Binderholz mill, and then I'll flip over to, this is a Georgia Pacific mill. One of the things you notice is there's a lot of brown here and not a lot of white. When you go to the Binder mill, here's the brown, but there's a lot of white logs. Thomas, why don't you explain why that is here versus that Georgia Pacific mill?
Yeah, so actually we're not the only mill in the US and Canada that does that. So Jordan and Idaho Timber does some of that log sorting. The advantage of what it does for you is you basically run through the mill only one log size and one log length, and that gives you the chance to space the logs closer together and run the lines faster. And it also gives you an opportunity, and I think this is the big difference that the other mills may not be able to do. It gives you the ability to be completely flexible on your production mix. And when I say flexible, it's not just making lumber sizes for the US market, but to also make it sizes. For example, in this mill we made and maybe 3 or 4 times the number of products that a typical US mill would do by making rough lumber for the export markets in the Caribbean and in South America. We exported from there to India, to China, to the Middle East. And people say, well, the prices aren't as good. Well, with those sizes, they usually fit into a cutting pattern that allows you to get more yield out of the log. And these guys have sophisticated planning devices that tell you what is exactly the revenue out of the lumber, the revenue out of the byproducts that you generate, the speed at which the machinery operates. And so it gives you a whole picture of what is the contribution margin of each product. So being able to do that and being flexible. And when we ran that mill at Klausner, there were times where 2x6s were selling for $280 a thousand, and we were selling the equivalent of $450 in the export market for virtually the same size. So that's the advantage of these type of sawmills and what log sorting brings to you.
So what I'm going to interpolate out of that, I understood most of it, I think, is the global market plays such a bigger role in the US market than we ever realized. And this actually brings me to my next point, which is how important market price data is. I have a personal mission to bring the best possible market price data to the market. We, as an industry, this is my opinion, we operate using weekly data that's a guess at best, and we hold it like the Bible. And it's just, to me, it's insanity. I understand that it makes maybe some of the procurement process more efficient, but that's what MaterialsXchange is here to change. We want to make the procurement process efficient through efficient transactions. So Thomas, if you were actually, the first transaction we ever had on MaterialsXchange was with Binderholz, and we appreciate that support from day one. And Thomas was an early adopter and believes in this. If you could just, touch on why did you get on board? What's your vision for what we can do to help Binder be more successful?
Well, Mike, of course, my goal is not to make you a lot of money, but my goal is to have a good advantage for my company. And of course, what I found interesting about MaterialsXchange, it gave us a couple of different options. Number one is when we start off in this import business, we cannot reach all customers at all times. Still, a significant amount of our business moves through office wholesalers. And it's maybe 17-18%, and of course we want to be as close to the customer as possible. We want to have relationships like with Tom and who's on the line. That's the kind of interest that we have as a company, to find those companies. We have to keep it, obviously, like most mills, we have a small sales staff, that we want to keep busy, and so MaterialsXchange is a real great way for us to reach more people, to reach more customers, and to be able to offer our product to a wider range of many people that are unknown. Every year, this is my 31st year in the lumber business, but I get to meet new companies, almost on a weekly basis that I've never even heard of, and it's my fault, maybe I should be more of a dialer guy. But we can't possibly know every customer that's out there, and being able to reach those customers through MaterialsXchange is a huge benefit to us.
If there's one thing you could ask of the marketplace, or the members of the market, and I'm setting you up on this, obviously, it's if they could give you bids, if they could give you a sense of what they want to pay, it helps you out, just like
Yeah.
you're putting the offer out.
That's right. I mean, just like everything else, I have a boss, and the boss says, Thomas, did you sell at a good price or a bad price? So he will always look at that. So for me, it's really important to not look like a fool, right? So I mean, if I'm constantly selling under the market, then I'm in a bad shape. If I'm too high and I don't sell my product, I'm in a bad spot. So either way, as a sales guy, I want to move my product, but always at the best price, of course, right? So that's my goal. So being able to look and see what those bids are and where the market really is, or what people are willing to purchase, that's extremely helpful. And also to see that transparency, basically, when I see I put something on the offer, but I don't get a bid, I know I must be off, so maybe I need to adjust my thinking about where the market really is, so it's very, very helpful.
Excellent. Looking forward past the 21 and in 22, is there any there's themes that you see in the market that could fundamentally change the way construction is done, or what do you see going like long term?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. I think my biggest concern is hyperinflation. So I think we're on track for a very large inflation rise and probably interest rates rise that could really kill this market in terms of consumption. Otherwise, if it's managed properly, I really don't see a whole lot of danger here, because most likely what we will experience is something like the Roaring 20s. When people come out of this pandemic, they'll want to live, they will spend money, they will really stimulate the economy. I think the Economist talks about the potential for the US economy to have a 7 to 8% GDP growth. That happens, and if the Fed plays the cards right and manages the business correctly, then I think we're looking for some very good years, maybe a good decade. And I hope then beyond that, and I'm long time retired. So
I got actually this is the last question, I promise. There's a lot of unknown about the European product, especially when it comes to design values. We had a situation where someone could have bought, in fact, it was Binder wood, but they were going to buy a number 3 instead, because the number 3 had the design values already in that the building inspector already knew. What can you comment about the strength characteristics and the MSR specific values of just the standard 2 and better, if it's going to be Norway spruce from Germany or Austrian spruce from?
Yeah, so Mike, I think there's a lot of confusion out there, and there's also the main part of the confusion comes from how the lumber is really graded and strength values classified. And this is a fact about Canadian lumbers, US lumber, any kind of lumber. Of course, if you buy an MSR grade, you know what you're getting, right? So each piece is tested, everything is right. A few years ago, you may remember we had some yellow pine collapses, and then the yellow pine had to go through a reevaluation stage where they had to test various regions and had to go back and had to adjust their design values downwards because they had a significant change in timber growth, to a juvenile wood that was really not properly reflected in those strength values. Well, none of Canadian lumber has not been evaluated, I think, for 30 years. So we're not really playing on the same field. I was involved in the certification of German lumber in 1998 or so with WCLIB. So what happens in this case, a grader from WCLIB comes to your facility, they pull pieces that they want to have tested, and based on this test, they will bring this to Oregon, they test the material to breakage points, and then they say this is the design factor. So what they do is they put certain safety factors in there to make sure that they don't know. For example, our example, we were wondering why was it lower than from our test. We had a Stora Enso was doing it in the Czech Republic, and that mill where the test was done was literally 25 miles away from our facility, 25 miles. And their values was different than our value. I said, how in the world can that be? You know, this is not logical. So then they say, oh, we couldn't find this defect in your product, so we had to put an artificial factor in there to lower your values, you know. And so you see this all throughout the, you know, the European landscape. If you were to come, you know, if you make a map and you see where everything is, it's really not reality. It's the same issue as SPF South and SPF Western values. You know, you cross the border, and you really tell me that a mill in southern BC has a different value than a northern Washington mill. You know, I mean, it's completely ludicrous. If the industry was really serious, which at the time of the yellow pine situation, I was only in the yellow pine business, and I said to them, look, I think every mill should just MSR grade. This is what the Australians have instituted. They have 3 MSR classes, and then they have a non-MSR product. And that's the easiest way to get past that. It would establish a standard and would really allow for complete species interchangeability. But other than that, there's never been a failure that I have knowledge of any European wood in the marketplace. If anybody has knowledge of something like that, please let me know. You know, I'm completely confident in that the European product is as good or better than any Canadian product, or Eastern Canadian for sure. So the values, you know, the proof is in the pudding. I don't know how many billions board feet of lumber have been imported from Europe. This discussion always keeps coming up because it's, you know, who's coming up with it. I mean, I think sometimes building inspectors, maybe some Canadian mills. I don't know.
Perfect. So the easiest way for someone to, well, for all of your wood is MSR graded though, correct?
No. It's no, MSR graded means I have tested every wood, and then I would stamp it with a 1200 MS, you know, F or something like that stamp, or 1650. But no, we manually grade, and of course we have mechanical grading assistance, or, you know, X-ray assistance and all this kind of stuff. But it's not MSR graded. Like, those are 2 different things.
And 100% of Binderholz product though is premium grade coming over. You don't
Right. Yeah, we do non-grade. You know, we don't usually offer it through MX. We sell some to wholesalers and through some remanners and so on. Then we sell the low grade too, as well, non-grade stamped. Yeah.
Hey, Mike, it's Ashley and Thomas. So one thing, so I'll give everybody on this call, great call. Well, the challenge is Thomas has about 40 trucks listed today. So one of the action steps after this is bid on some of the on Thomas's trucks that he has up there listed. I mean, he's been a supporter of us since the beginning, and consistently has 30 to 50 trucks up here on a daily basis, every day, like clockwork. So, but my challenge to everybody is support Thomas, and let's give him some feedback on the pricing by putting active bids in the market.
Yeah, there's a user on the platform or on the call who got a truck of Thomas's wood, and his yard guy came in and said it was the best wood he's ever seen in his entire life. Keep buying that stuff.
That's really sweet. Thanks for sharing that. You know, I had a call the other day from the Home Depot purchaser, and he said, "Is this your product?" And I was getting really nervous. And he said, I said, "Did we do something wrong? Was there any problem?" He said, "It's the best looking wood he's ever seen in his stores." So we're very big with Home Depot and with Lowe's, and you know, we'll continue to build that program as well. But the fact that they put a lot of faith in the Binderholz product, I think, tells me a lot, and I think you should be confident that we put out a great product for you.
And look, the dealers on the call here, we all know that there is some competitive factors you have to deal with the big box stores. So you can be rest assured, if you're buying Binder wood, you are going to be on a level playing field with the same product that Home Depot.
That's right. That's right.
Very good. I'd like to wrap this up. I think we're getting close to the hour here. Thomas, thank you very much. It's good to see you again. You know, it's interesting. We've all been in this industry a long time, and we've all been around since the spotted owl days when cutting down wood was a bad thing, right? And
right.
I stand in cocktail parties, and I was the bad guy in the room being a lumber dealer. But when you see some of the CLT design and you see some of the beautiful buildings that are being made with wood and lumber these days, it makes you proud to be in the industry. So with that, I think we're going to close it up. And Thomas, thank you again very much for your support.
Sure.
And for your contribution here today. And we will see everybody. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thanks.